My name is Althea Lorraine Booker. I am 58 years old. I taught young children to read for 35 years. I have 2 grandchildren and 1 small dog that thinks it is a lion. I have been married to Cyrus Booker for 36 years. He was a steady man with hands rough from lifting beams and hanging fences. We lived in a small town where everybody knew our names and our stories. I never thought a single morning could change everything I believed about the life I built with him. Before I begin the story, friends, please do me a favor. If you like powerful stories that make you feel deep and push you to think, please subscribe to this channel. Hit the like button and turn on the notifications so you do not miss the next chapters. Drop a quick comment below and tell me which part of the country you are watching from so I can see who is with me. Your support helps these stories reach other people who need them. The day I walked into his workplace, I had a pie in my hands and a heart full of surprise. Cyrus had always loved my peach cobbler. It was a small thing, but when you live through decades with one person, small things become treasures. I had practiced my smile in the mirror, smoothed the collar of the jacket I planned to wear, and told my neighbor I would be back in the afternoon. I wanted him to look up from his desk and find me standing there with a grin and a cobbler and a silly little song. His workplace was not a big hall or a shining office. It was a narrow wing of the Willow Grove Retirement Center, a place where Cyrus volunteered twice a week handing out mail and fixing small things for men and women who lived there. The building smelled like lemon cleaner and old coffee. There were framed photographs along the wall of dances and recitals and long white-haired couples holding hands. He loved that place because he loved people. He liked how everyone there would call him Mr. Booker and ask him about the Braves and the weather. I liked him for that gentle way he moved with strangers. When I pushed open the door to the mailroom, the clatter of a cart stopped and someone laughed. Cyrus was there, sitting with a woman I had never seen. She was younger than me by 20 years at least. She had a soft voice and eyes that stayed on him like she wanted to memorize him. Cyrus was smiling, his hand on her wrist, and when he looked up I felt the room slip away. For a second, I did not recognize the scene. Then I saw the box of keys by his elbow, the tiny nameplate on the table that read Cyrus Booker Volunteer. He stood the way he always stood, a little bent at the shoulders, but when his face turned to me the air in my chest went cold. He did not say my name. He did not reach for the cobbler I held out. He looked through me and then looked at the woman and called her by a name I had never heard. "Evelyn," he said. "Evelyn, you found the papers." He laughed like a man who was sharing a joke. My hands shook. The cobbler threatened to fall. I stood there with pastry in my hands and the most important person in my life telling someone else what I had meant to say for decades. My mouth moved, but the sound that came out was small and thin. "Cyrus," I said. "Cyrus. It is me. Althea." The woman frowned for a moment and then smiled kindly as if she was comforting a child. She said, "Oh, you must be Althea. Cyrus has told us about you." She took a step forward like she wanted to help steady me. Her fingers were gentle and very sure. I remember the clock above the door ticking. I remember the smell of the lemon cleaner. I remember thinking this was a bad dream that would crack and fall away if I pinched my arm hard enough. I moved closer because I needed to touch him, to confirm he was real and not a ghost. When I reached for his hand, he did not take it. He looked at my hand like it belonged to a stranger. "Althea," the woman said softly, "we have something to show you. We need to talk about Cyrus and his wishes." I do not understand how to explain that words like wishes are small when the thing that used to be Cyrus was right there in front of me and did not know me. Then the paper appeared. It was a thick envelope with a seal on it, like the ones lawyers use in the movies. The woman set it on the table and slid a little photograph beside it. The photograph was of Cyrus standing at a dock, younger, hair darker, eyes closed and laughing. The woman pushed the photograph toward me as if the picture would soften the words I was about to read. The envelope had my name on it in a handwriting I recognized. It had my name and our address. Cyrus smiled at me like someone stopped a song halfway through. He said, "Althea, you have always been the one." He looked at the woman, then back at me, and his voice trembled in a way that made my stomach twist. I thought then that maybe he was playing along. People with long marriages played small games sometimes, teasing and testing. Maybe this was a cruel joke he would burst out laughing from. Maybe he had hidden a camera in the tissue box to catch my face. But the room did not laugh. The other volunteers shuffled papers. A woman with a cart of mail kept her head down and pretended to be busy. Cyrus reached for the envelope and did not hand it to me. He opened it with careful fingers. The woman beside him said, "We thought it best if you read this together." I felt faint. Inside the envelope was a letter on lawyer paper with a letterhead I had never seen before. The top line said something like "important notice," and the rest of the words swam. I could not make sense of the sentences because my mind was trying to puzzle together the image of the man I had danced with at 21, argued with at 50, and slept beside for 36 years. My life had been built on his name. If words could break a life, they would look like the ones I was holding. Cyrus read aloud in a voice that was too steady for the man who had once carved a swing out of an old board for our first child. The letter said that he had made changes to his will. It said he had signed papers naming another person to manage his accounts and to make medical decisions should he ever be unable to do so himself. It said something about a new power of attorney. It said the name of that woman. I felt my knees go weak. The cart clattered. The volunteer who had been laughing a moment ago looked suddenly serious. Cyrus looked at me with kindness and something like sorrow, but behind his eyes there was a wall I could not climb. He put down the letter and smiled. He said, "Althea, this will make things easier. You do not have to worry anymore." I clutched the cobbler like a shield. I thought of all the nights I had sat awake worrying about bills and the way he would whistle as he fixed a fence. I thought of the afternoons he would fall asleep in his chair and wake with a grin like a boy. I thought of how we had promised each other small things like always saving for the car and always going to church on Sundays. None of that feeling prepared me for the way my name would be printed on paper and handed to me like something to be boxed and moved. When I finally spoke, it was a small sound that wanted to be louder. "Why, Cyrus," I said. "Why would you do this?" The words left me like a child asking why the moon was gone. He reached for the photograph on the table. He traced his finger along the face of the younger man in the picture, as if it was a separate life he held in his hand. The woman leaned in and whispered to him. He laughed softly and squeezed her hand, and for the first time in my life I felt invisible in a way that had nothing to do with age and everything to do with the person I loved choosing someone else to carry his life papers. Then the woman said, "There is one more thing, Althea." She opened her mouth and the room seemed to tilt. She said, "Cyrus has been in contact with a care facility in another town. They are ready to take him if he needs more help. They will begin over the next week." My lungs forgot how to breathe. The cobbler slipped from my hands and the crust cracked on the floor. The scent of sugar spilled into the air like a small betrayal. Cyrus looked at me with a look that said he wished he could fix this by sweeping his hand across the table and erasing the lines. He stood slowly and walked past me to the window. Outside, a delivery truck was pulling away. A little boy on a bicycle waved at someone on the porch, and a woman called his name. I wanted to run after the truck and grab the back and hold on until it took me far away from that room. I wanted to take his hand and whisper every promise I had kept. But the woman at his side took his arm and asked him if he wanted to get a cup of coffee. Cyrus smiled and said, "No, I want to finish the paperwork first." He turned to me and said in a voice that sounded like wind through dry grass, "Althea, you should sit down. There is more you need to see." I sat down because my legs would not hold me up. My heart beat a great wide note in my chest. The envelope lay open on the table, and the rest of the words weighted like stones that would make the whole river gash open. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small book with a cover that read medical assessment. She slid it across the table toward me. My name was on the first page. I picked up the book and turned it over as though the pages might burn. My hand trembled. The last thing I remember before the world narrowed to the white paper and the black print was the other woman smiling and saying softly, "We thought it best you knew sooner than later." The photograph on the table had been taken the week before at a fishing dock. The man in it did not look like mine. When I opened to the second page, the words stared back. I could not move. Then the woman said, "There is one more test. There is one more answer." At that moment the door to the mailroom creaked open, and a voice I had never heard from Cyrus in years called out down the hall. "Althea," he said, "we need to talk about the house." I do not know which of us froze first, the voice or the paper. But the way he said the house made the word feel like a bell rung in the fog. I sat in that small mailroom, holding the medical booklet with my name printed in bold letters, feeling like the floor under me was turning to water. My hands shook so badly that the pages made soft tapping sounds against each other. Every breath felt shallow, like my lungs were learning how to work again. Cyrus stood by the doorway, waiting for me to follow him. Waiting for me to accept whatever change he had planned without me knowing. For 36 years, that man would never buy a new pair of boots without asking my thoughts. Now he had made decisions big enough to change the shape of our whole life, and he had done it without saying a word. The younger woman, Evelyn, kept watching me with that calm expression. I hated that calm. It felt like she had been preparing for this moment. Like she already knew how my world was about to twist. I rose slowly from the chair and followed Cyrus into the hallway. Every step felt heavy. People moved around us, pushing carts, greeting each other. No one knew my life was falling apart right there between the lemon-scented walls. Cyrus walked ahead with his soft shuffle. When he reached a small empty lounge, he turned and waited for me. He motioned for me to sit. I did not want to, but I was afraid if I stayed standing, my knees would give out. He sat across from me, his hands folded in his lap. Those hands had held mine through every season of our life. Those hands had built cribs, cooked breakfasts, wiped tears. Now they rested like they belonged to someone I barely recognized. "Althea," he said gently, "I know this is hard." I swallowed the lump in my throat. Hard was a soft word for what I felt. Hard was stepping on a Lego. This was something else. Something sharp and deep. "Why did you do all this without telling me, Cyrus?" I asked. My voice cracked. I tried again. "Why did you change everything?" He sighed, long and tired. I saw it then. A shadow in his eyes, something uncertain, something lost. But mixed with that shadow was something else too. Relief. As though this new plan, this new woman, this new life had lifted some weight off him. "I did not want to bury you in my worries," he said. "I wanted things to be easier for you." "Easier?" I repeated, stunned. "You gave another woman power over your life. Over our home. You made plans about care facilities. And I was not worth a conversation?" He looked down at his hands. I noticed a soft bandage wrapped around one of his fingers. I did not know how he injured himself. I should have known. A wife should know. And that small detail hurt worse than the letterhead paper. "Althea, something happened a few months ago," he began. My breath caught. "I was at the center, finishing the mail rounds," he continued. "I forgot which hallway I was in. I forgot who I had just talked to. Then I forgot how to get back to the front desk. Althea, it felt like I was floating away. I could hear people talking, but the walls looked wrong. Everything looked wrong. I felt my stomach drop." He wrapped his fingers together. "When your father passed, I watched you fall apart," he said. "I promised myself that I would never put you through that kind of worry again." "Cyrus," I whispered, grief rising like heat in my chest, "you should have told me." "I did tell someone," he said quietly. I closed my eyes. I already knew the name that was coming. Evelyn helped me get the tests. She helped me talk to the doctor. She helped me understand what was happening to me. "What is happening to you?" I whispered, even though a part of me did not want the answer. He hesitated. His jaw trembled a little. That tremble frightened me more than any paper, any envelope, any woman. "I have mild cognitive impairment," he said at last. "The doctor said it may stay the same for years. Or it may change." I needed someone who was not too close emotionally. Someone who could make clear decisions if it got worse. I stared at him, stunned. My heart split between fear and anger. I reached across the table and placed my hand over his. "Cyrus Booker," I said softly, "you could have told me. I am your wife." He looked up at me with tired eyes. "I know," he said. "But I saw how hard life got when you cared for your father. You stopped sleeping. You stopped eating. I cannot let you carry that again." Before I could respond, a soft knock sounded at the door. Evelyn stepped inside with the confidence of someone who had already been invited into our marriage. She said, "Cyrus, the director needs your signature on the last form." Last form. My heart stuttered. What last form? Evelyn hesitated, glancing at Cyrus. "Tell her, Cyrus," she urged gently, as if I were a child who needed easing into truth. I rose from my chair slowly. The air felt thick. Heavy. "What form?" I asked again. Cyrus finally answered. "It is about the house," he said. "If I get worse, the facility wants to be sure the property is handled the right way. I signed the first part, but I need to sign the second." Signed. I felt the room tilt. "So this is what you meant earlier," I whispered. He nodded, shame crossing his face. A wave of heat rushed through my body. My hands curled into fists. I could not breathe. "You are signing our home away," I said, my voice shaking. "Without me." Cyrus closed his eyes like my words were too heavy to look at. "I thought it would protect you," he whispered. "Protect me?" I repeated. "Protect me by taking everything from me?" Evelyn stepped forward. She lifted a hand slightly, a gesture meant to calm. But it only fueled the fire inside me. "Althea, please," she said softly. "We know this is hard to process, but everything we are doing is for his stability and care. We." That word cut deeper than any paper. I took a step back, chest rising and falling too fast. Cyrus reached out a hand. Not to grab me. Not to stop me. Just reaching. "Please sit, Althea," he begged. "There is still one more thing we need to discuss." "No," I whispered. "I cannot. Not right now." I moved toward the door, shaking. Then Cyrus said something that froze my steps. "If I cannot stay at home, the facility wants you to consider something too." I turned slowly. "Consider what?" Evelyn cleared her throat. "They think it may be better if you transition as well." Transition. The word hit me like a slap. "Are you saying," I whispered, "that you want to put me in a facility too?" "Not now," Evelyn said quickly. "Not soon. Just as a future plan. If his condition progresses, they prefer spouses to be in closer care." Spouses. Care. Facility. The words echoed inside my mind like stones dropping into a well. I felt my whole body go cold. Then Cyrus said the sentence I would remember for the rest of my life. "Althea, we need to prepare for the possibility that neither of us can stay in the house long term. The house I built. The house I kept alive. The house I raised children in. The house I scrubbed, painted, fixed, loved. The house my mother blessed before she died." My voice came out thin and trembling. "And what happens to our home while you prepare all this behind my back?" Cyrus looked at Evelyn. Then at the floor. The silence was my answer. My knees nearly buckled. And that was the moment I realized this was bigger than a letter. Bigger than a decision. Bigger than a form. Something was happening behind the scenes. And it was not just illness. It was not just fear. It was something I was not supposed to know yet. Because as I left the room, my eyes caught something in Evelyn's open folder. A document with the title, Property Transfer Recommendation. And beside Cyrus's name, a second signature line. Already signed. Not by me. Not by him. But by Evelyn. I froze in place. They did not think I saw it. But I did. And the truth hit me like a blow. This was not just planning. This was a plan. I gripped the doorframe to steady myself as the realization formed like a storm inside my mind. This woman was not just helping him. I walked out of that room with my pulse pounding so loud I could hear it echoing in my ears. The walls of Willow Grove felt tight around me, like they were closing in, pressing me forward, pushing me into a truth I did not want but could no longer avoid. Every memory of my years with Cyrus flashed through my mind like broken film pieces scraping past each other. But mixed with the memories was another feeling. A new one. Hot. Sharp. Something I had not felt in years. Suspicion. I pressed my back against the hallway wall, trying to steady my breath. My palms felt slick. My eyes burned. I was not a woman who cried easily, but the tears were pressing hard against my throat. I blinked them away. Crying was something Evelyn would expect from me. Weakness was something she might want. I would not give her that. I closed my eyes and replayed what I saw in that folder. Property transfer recommendation. A second signature. Her signature. I whispered to myself, no. Something is not right. This is not right at all. As people walked by, I forced myself to stand tall, to breathe slow, to look like I belonged there. But inside, my mind was racing. Why was her signature there? Why did she have access to documents meant for our family? And why did Cyrus trust her so deeply, so blindly, that he hid everything from me? I pushed away from the wall and walked toward the exit doors. Outside, the air was cold and sweet with pine. I sat down on a bench under a bare tree and finally let the truth settle in my chest. This was not about preparing for his future. This was not about protecting me. This was about control. About power. About someone sliding quietly into Cyrus's life. And quietly pushing me out. I sat there for several minutes letting the anger grow roots. Then I wiped my face with the edge of my sleeve and whispered, no. I am not losing everything I built. Not like this. I reached into my purse, pulled out my phone, and dialed the number of the one person I trusted with my life. My older cousin, Marion. She was the only one in our family who had worked in legal offices before she retired. She answered on the second ring. Althea, you all right? She asked. I swallowed. I tried to speak steady, but my voice broke anyway. Marion, something is wrong. It is Cyrus. And that woman at the retirement center. I need to talk to you. Tonight. She paused for only a second before saying, come over. I will put on a pot of tea. Drive safe. I hung up and clenched the phone. I wanted to stand up and march straight back into that building, rip those documents apart, and drag him home by the arm. But something in me whispered to wait. Wait. Watch. Learn. Move smart. So I sat there until my breathing slowed. Then I stood and walked toward my car. But just before I opened the door, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned. Evelyn. She was walking toward me with soft steps, her face gentle like she was approaching a fragile piece of glass. Althea, she said softly, were you planning to leave without saying anything? I froze. She still wore that polite smile, but there was something under it. Something firm. Something too confident for a woman who barely knew me. I forced my voice to stay calm. I just needed some air. She nodded, stepping closer. You know, I really admire your strength. Not many wives handle news like this with grace. Grace. Heat flushed through my chest. I kept my face still. I appreciate your concern, I said, choosing each word like stepping on thin ice. But this is a lot for me. I need to think. Evelyn clasped her hands in front of her, studying me carefully. Almost too carefully. I understand, she said. Truly. But please hear me. Cyrus is in a delicate place. The smallest stress can make his condition decline faster. I am doing everything I can to keep him relaxed. That is why he trusts me so much. The way she said trusts made my jaw tighten. Then she added, I hope you will work with us. For his sake. Us. That word again. My hands curled into fists inside my coat pockets. I leaned slightly toward her. My voice dropped. "Tell me something," I said. "Why is your signature on a property transfer document? Why are you signing papers about my home?" Her smile flickered. Just a flicker, but I saw it. A crack. A crack in the calm mask she kept wearing. She lifted her chin slightly. "Sometimes I assist Cyrus when he gets confused with dates or forgets where he needs to sign. The staff trusts me. He trusts me. That is all. That is all." A lie. A soft lie wrapped in a sweet voice. I took a long breath, then stepped back. "I have been married to that man for decades," I said. "I know his handwriting like I know my own breathing. And yours does not belong on any legal document tied to my home." Evelyn's smile dropped completely now. Something cold flickered in her eyes. She stepped closer, lowering her voice so only I could hear her. "You should be careful, Althea," she whispered. "Stress is not good for your age. And right now, your husband is depending on people who bring him peace." Peace. Meaning her. Not me. She continued, "You do not want to make things harder for him. Or for yourself." My heart thumped hard. My breath quickened. That was not advice. That was a warning. I narrowed my eyes. "I am not afraid of you." She tilted her head, smiling again, but the sweetness was gone. "I think you should be," she whispered. "Because this situation is delicate. And people who cannot accept change often end up hurting themselves in the long run." My entire body stiffened. Then she reached out and lightly touched my arm. Her fingers were cold. "Drive safely, Althea." I jerked my arm away. She walked back toward the building, her steps slow and confident, like a woman who believed she already owned something that did not belong to her. As soon as she disappeared into the doorway, my resolve hardened into something sharp. This was not just about care. Not about illness. Not about planning. This was about someone slipping quietly into my life, into my marriage, into everything I built. I got into my car, turned the key, and drove straight to Marian's house. When she opened the door, I burst into tears before I could even step inside. Marian wrapped her arms around me and whispered, "Come in, baby. Sit down. Tell me everything." And I did. I told her everything. Every word. Every document. Every lie. When I finished, Marian sat back slowly, her eyes narrowing the way they always did when she sensed a scheme. "Althea," she said, her voice calm but firm, "this is not just about medical papers. Someone is moving pieces behind your back. Someone who knows what they are doing." I swallowed hard. My pulse raced. What do I do? Marian stood, walked to a cabinet, and pulled out a big binder filled with old legal notes from her career. She set it on the table. "First," she said, "we gather proof. Then we call a lawyer. Then we stop them before they take one more step." I wiped my eyes. "And then what?" I whispered. Marian leaned in close. "Then, Althea, we take your power back." I nodded slowly. For the first time that day, I felt a spark of strength return. But I did not know that before sunrise the next morning, someone would come to my house, leave something on my porch, and change everything again. I barely slept that night. Every sound in the house made me jump. The creak of the heater, the hum of the refrigerator, even the faint ticking of the living room clock felt louder than usual. I kept seeing Evelyn's face, hearing her voice, remembering the cold warning in her words. "Be careful, Althea. People who cannot accept change often end up hurting themselves." I lay awake until dawn, staring at the ceiling, my heart restless. I had shared a bed with Cyrus for 36 years, but that night the space beside me felt huge and empty. I kept picturing him sitting with her, trusting her, letting her sign her name where mine should be. Right before the sun rose, I finally drifted into a light sleep. It couldn't have been more than an hour before I was startled awake by a soft thud on the front porch. I sat straight up. Another thud. Then footsteps. Soft ones. Slow ones. Like someone placing something carefully by my door. I climbed out of bed, grabbed my robe, and hurried downstairs. I did not open the door right away. Instead, I peeked through the small side window beside it. No one was there. But something was. A small brown package. Wrapped in plain paper. No return address. I hesitated. My heartbeat grew quick and unsteady. I unlocked the door slowly, pushed it open, and stepped onto the porch. The morning air was cold enough to sting my face. I bent down and picked up the package. It was heavier than it looked. A sound behind me made me turn sharply, but it was just a squirrel jumping from the railing. I took the package inside, locked the door, and carried it to the kitchen table. For almost a full minute, I just stared at it. Was it from Cyrus? From Marion? From the facility? Or from her? I finally tore the paper. Inside was a book. A spiral-bound notebook with a faded blue cover. My hands trembled as I opened it. The first page was written in Cyrus's handwriting. If you are reading this, Althea, then something has happened that I could not explain to you in person. My breath caught. I turned the page. The writing continued. I have been keeping notes for months. Things I noticed. Things that felt wrong. I did not want to scare you, so I wrote them here. Someone told me to keep a record of changes in my memory, but I began seeing changes in other things too. Things no one would believe. I pressed a hand to my mouth. My fingers shook as I turned the next page. There were dates. Times. Short entries. Some neat. Some messy. Some written in panic. February 3rd. I forgot how to get home from the grocery store. Evelyn found me in the parking lot. She said she would help me. February 19th. Evelyn told me not to bother Althea with small slips. She said it would stress her. She said she would handle it. March 11th. I found a document in my file I do not remember signing. It had Evelyn's signature too. She said I forgot signing it. March 28th. I asked Evelyn why she needed access to my folders. She said the doctor requested it. April 9th. I told Evelyn I wanted to tell Althea about my condition. She said she already had a plan that would keep things peaceful. She said I should trust her. I felt confused after she talked to me. My heart hammered painfully. Page after page. The entries grew more frantic. May 4th. I woke up and saw Evelyn standing in my bedroom doorway. She said she was checking to make sure I was safe. But I felt frightened. May 18th. I told Evelyn I wanted to tell my wife everything. She said no. She said I would upset her too much. June 22nd. I think Evelyn is planning something. I cannot think clearly around her. When she speaks, things feel foggy. When I am away from her, I realize I did not agree to things she says I did. My breath came out in sharp gasps. Then I turned to the most recent entry. The handwriting was nearly unreadable, shaky, trembling. October 14th. If something happens. If I am not thinking like myself. If I forget who you are. Remember this, Althea. I did not agree to give her power. I did not agree to give her the house. I did not agree to let her speak for me. Someone is helping her. Someone at the facility. Someone who knows the system. And something happened yesterday. Something I cannot explain. Something dangerous. The last line made my blood run cold. If she is reading this before you, then I am already in trouble. I slammed the notebook shut. My breath came in short, sharp bursts. My fingers curled around the notebook so tight that my knuckles turned white. Everything made sense now. Evelyn wasn't helping him. She was controlling him. Manipulating him. Using his fear, his confusion, to make him depend on her. And the facility was helping her. My heart pounded like a drum. Shock. Fear. Then rage. But before I could gather myself, The phone rang. I jumped. I hurried to the counter, grabbed it, and checked the caller ID. Willow Grove Retirement Center. My stomach turned. I swallowed hard, forcing my voice steady as I answered. Hello. A strange male voice spoke on the other end. Calm. Too calm. Mrs. Booker, this is Mr. Talbot, the director here at Willow Grove. I'm calling to inform you that your husband has been moved into temporary observation today. Moved. I whispered. Why? What happened? The man hesitated. His tone softened, but not with kindness. With practice. He had a difficult night. He became confused and agitated. He kept saying someone was trying to harm him. He kept calling your name. My heart cracked. I gripped the counter to steady myself. Can I come see him? I asked. There was a pause. Actually, Mrs. Booker, Evelyn has already advised us that it may be best if you wait until later this week. I froze. Wait. Later this week? I felt a hot wave rush through me. And why would she make that decision? I said, my voice low and sharp. He hesitated again. Mr. Booker gave her temporary authority to speak on his behalf during episodes. Episodes? I snapped. You mean stress someone is causing him? Silence. Then a clipped, polite tone. Mrs. Booker, please understand. We are following protocol. I hung up. I couldn't listen to one more lie. Not one more word. I grabbed my coat and the notebook. My keys shook in my hand. I was going to that facility. Right now. And no one was going to stop me. But as I opened the front door to leave, I froze. There was something else on my porch. A second envelope. Thin. White. And written in tiny, careful letters across the front was a message. Read this before you go. It will save you. My breath hitched. I reached for it with trembling fingers. Inside was a single sheet of paper. And when I opened it and saw who had written it, my vision blurred with shock. Because the warning was not from Cyrus. It was from someone inside the facility. Someone who worked with Evelyn. Someone who knew the truth. And they were telling me I was in danger. She was trying to replace me. And take everything I had. I stood in my doorway holding that thin white envelope like it was a live wire humming in my hands. My breath trembled. The air in the house felt too quiet, too still, like the walls themselves were waiting for me to open it. The handwriting on the front was small and careful, the kind of handwriting that belonged to someone who wanted to stay unnoticed. Someone who didn't want their name recognized. I slid my finger under the flap and pulled the paper out. 1 page. Typed. No signature. No heading. Just a message. My eyes moved slowly over the first line. You don't know me, but I work closely with Evelyn. I have watched her for months. I'm sending this because what is happening to your husband is not an accident. My stomach twisted. My hands began to shake. I read on. You need to understand something important. Evelyn has done this before. I gasped. I pressed a hand to my chest to steady my heartbeat. Done this before? To who? How many people? My eyes dropped to the next lines. She finds older men who trust easily. Men with memory problems, fear, or loneliness. She positions herself as helpful, patient, comforting. Then she slowly isolates them from their families. My knees nearly buckled. I gripped the side of the doorframe just to keep standing. There was more. First she becomes their emotional support. Then she takes over appointments. Then their papers. Then their signatures. Then their decisions. My blood ran cold. Everything I had seen, everything I had feared, was happening on purpose. To Cyrus. My Cyrus. Then the next paragraph made my breath stop. When the men start getting confused, she convinces staff that the wife or family members cause stress. She limits their visits. Sometimes she even tells the men that their families are angry with them or planning to leave them. My jaw clenched. Tears burned behind my eyes. That explained the look in Cyrus's eyes. That explained his hesitation. That explained the sadness he carried. He wasn't pulling away from me. He was being pushed. I kept reading. Your husband has been telling the staff that he is scared, that someone is controlling him. But Evelyn always reaches him before anyone else can. She calms him down and tells them he is confused. A sharp pain sliced across my chest. My poor husband. Frightened. Calling my name. And no one listening. Then I reached the part that nearly made me drop the letter. There is a man at the facility helping her. A supervisor. They have a quiet agreement. He clears things for her. In return, she gives him something. I don't know what. But he protects her. A supervisor? Inside the facility? Working with her? The letter continued. Your husband is not being moved for observation. He is being moved so she can gain full access to his documents. Once that happens, she will have legal control. Legal control. Of him. Of our home. Of our life. My breath came in shallow gasps. But then the final lines changed everything. Do not come to the facility today. She is expecting you. And she is telling staff that you cause him distress. If you show up, she will use it against you. She will twist it. And she will win. I stared at the words. Frozen. Do not come. She is expecting you. She will twist it. She will win. My heart thudded violently in my chest. But the last line, the very last line, was the one that made my bones go cold. If you want to save him, you need to move quietly. You need proof. And you need help. Start by checking the papers in your home. Look at the dates. Look at the signatures. Something important is missing. Something important is missing. In my own home. Something I hadn't seen yet. The letter ended with one final warning. Do not trust anyone at Willow Grove until you know who the supervisor is. My hands trembled so badly I nearly dropped the paper. A cold wave washed through me. Someone inside that building was trying to protect me. Someone was risking their job, maybe more, to warn me. Someone wanted me to survive this. I folded the letter quickly and slid it into my robe pocket. I grabbed my purse and hurried to the living room, my heart racing so fast I could hear it. The house felt different now. Not safe. Not familiar. Like someone had walked through it when I wasn't looking. Like someone had hidden something in plain sight. I ran to the cabinet where we kept our important papers. I pulled down the small box where we stored our insurance forms, our deed, our old wills, our tax papers. My hands flew through the folders, ripping papers out, checking dates, checking signatures. Then I saw it. A folder I had never opened. A folder I had never even seen. A folder labeled in handwriting that wasn't mine or Cyrus's. Medical adjustments and consent updates. My breath caught. I opened it fast. Inside were copies of forms from Willow Grove. Most were blank. But 3 were filled out. With Cyrus's name. And one had a signature line for me. My signature. Except, it wasn't mine. Someone had forged my name. I stared at the fake signature, my heart hammering so hard I felt dizzy. This was what the letter warned about. This was what Evelyn needed. This was how she planned to take everything. I grabbed my purse, stuffed the forged papers and Cyrus's notebook inside, and rushed toward the door. But then I froze. A shadow moved across my front window. Slow. Steady. Someone was outside. I stepped back from the window, heart pounding in my throat. Then a soft knock echoed on my door. 3 taps. Slow. Controlled. Not friendly. Not casual. I stood perfectly still. Another knock. My breath shook. Then a voice. A calm, smooth voice. Mrs. Booker. We need to speak with you about your husband. I covered my mouth. My heart nearly stopped. It wasn't Cyrus. It wasn't Marion. It wasn't a neighbor. And it wasn't the person who wrote the warning letter. It was a man. A man with a voice I didn't recognize. A man from Willow Grove. And he wasn't knocking like someone checking in. He was knocking like someone who already expected to come inside. I stepped back slowly, my hands trembling. Then the voice said something that told me everything. "Please open the door. Evelyn sent me." My blood froze. I stood perfectly still in the center of my living room, clutching the forged papers and notebook to my chest. And I knew, without a doubt, if I opened that door, something terrible would happen. I did not move. Not 1 inch. I stood in the middle of my own living room, gripping Cyrus's notebook and the forged papers so tightly my fingers began to ache. The man's silhouette stretched across the window as he shifted his weight on the porch. His shadow moved slowly, deliberately, like he had all the time in the world. Then he knocked again. 3 taps. Soft, but firm. "Mrs. Booker," his voice said with that calm, professional tone that felt too smooth to be trusted. "We need to talk about Cyrus's condition. Evelyn advised me to check on you personally." Personally. I knew exactly what that meant. This wasn't a courtesy visit. This wasn't concern. This wasn't routine. He was here to control the situation. To keep me from interfering. To make sure I didn't discover the truth. To shut me down. My heartbeat thudded fast and uneven. But then another sound pierced the silence. A metallic rattle. He was trying the door handle. Quietly. Carefully. Testing it. I stepped backward, my breath catching in my throat. My mind raced. "Do not trust anyone at Willow Grove until you know who the supervisor is." The letter's warning repeated itself like an alarm inside my head. Was this the supervisor? Was he working with Evelyn? Was he the man she gave something to in exchange for protecting her? I did not know. But I knew one thing. I was not opening that door. I scanned the room, my thoughts moving quickly. I needed proof. I needed safety. I needed time. And I needed to stay ahead of whatever trap they were setting. The man knocked again. "Mrs. Booker. I can help sort through this confusion. We want to ensure everyone is safe." Safe. He kept using that word. Men like him always used soft words when they wanted something dangerous. I took a breath and quietly moved toward the back of the house, staying low, keeping my footsteps silent. I needed to get out. Not through the front. Not with him standing there like a guard dog. When I reached the back door, I slowly pulled the curtains aside. No one. I unlatched the door as quietly as possible. My hand trembled, but I forced myself steady. I slipped outside into the cold morning air and gently closed the door behind me. The air smelled like wet earth and pine needles. The neighborhood was still asleep, still dark, still innocent. But I knew danger was awake. I moved quickly toward Marion's car, a beat-up silver sedan she insisted on parking behind my house for emergencies. She always believed life could turn fast. I used to laugh at her for that. Now I thanked God she was right. I pulled out my phone and called her. She answered almost immediately. "Althea. What's wrong?" "Marion, someone from Willow Grove is at my house," I whispered. "At the front door. Evelyn sent him. I don't know what he wants." He tried the handle. Her breath caught. "You didn't open it?" "Of course not." "Good," she said firmly. "Get in the car and come straight here. Lock the doors. Drive fast. Don't stop for anything or anyone." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. I ran the short distance, unlocked the sedan, and slid inside. I felt safer once the doors clicked shut, but only barely. My hands shook as I started the engine. Before I pulled away, I checked the side mirror. The man was now walking along the side of my house. Slowly. Looking for another way in. A cold sweat broke across my skin. I didn't wait. I hit the gas and backed out of the yard quickly. I turned onto the main road and sped away, my breath shaky, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. As I drove, the morning sun began to rise. A pale glow. A new day. But my life was spiraling into darkness. By the time I reached Marian's house, my hands were numb from gripping the wheel. She was already standing at the door, waiting, her robe pulled tight around her, hair covered with a scarf. When she saw me, she ran to the car. "Get inside," she said, pulling me in quickly. "Come on." We locked the door behind us. I collapsed into her sofa and finally let the tears come. The ugly ones. The deep ones. The kind that come from fear and betrayal. Marian held my hands until my breathing slowed. "All right," she said at last. "Start from the beginning. What happened after you found that envelope?" I told her everything. The letter. The warning. The forged signature. The man at my house. The knocking. The way he tried the door handle. Evelyn's name on his tongue like she owned him. Marian listened without interrupting, her expression shifting from concern, to anger, to something sharper. When I finished, she stood up and went straight to her kitchen drawer. She pulled out a thick black binder and placed it on the coffee table. "What is that?" I asked. Her answer was steady and cold. "Everything we need to shut this down." I wiped my face. Marian opened the binder and began flipping through tabs. Legal codes, elder care laws, property rights, medical consent regulations, case studies she had kept even after retiring. She tapped a page. "Here." I leaned forward. She pointed to a section printed in bold. "Any facility or staff member who interferes with a marriage, restricts access unlawfully, or assumes authority without verified documentation is committing a felony." My breath caught. A felony. Marian turned to another page. "Here. Forging a spouse's signature on medical or property documents is grounds for criminal prosecution." My hands shook. Then she flipped to one more section. This one chilled me the most. Coercion of a vulnerable adult for financial gain is considered exploitation. And exploitation is a crime with prison time attached. Everything inside me stilled. Marian closed the binder gently. "Althea," she said, her voice low, "this is not just a messy situation. This is a crime." I swallowed hard. "What do we do now?" Marian looked at me with the kind of determination that only comes from someone who has survived storms before. "First, we get a lawyer. A good one. Today. Someone who has no connection to Willow Grove." I nodded. "Then, we gather every document. Every signature. Every letter. Every notebook entry. We build a file thicker than a Bible." I nodded again, firmer this time. "And then." She looked at me deeply. "We go after them. All of them. Legally. Fully. Before they take one more thing from you." I exhaled slowly, feeling strength crawl back into my bones. But just as we stood to get started, Marian's phone buzzed. She glanced at it. Then her eyes widened. "What is it?" I asked. Her voice cracked. "It's from a nurse at Willow Grove. Someone I know from church." My stomach flipped. "What does it say?" Marian swallowed hard, then read the message out loud. "Cyrus has been moved again. Not to observation. To private care. Someone is changing his records. Come quickly." My heart dropped. Private care. Changed records. Moved again. I grabbed Cyrus's notebook from the coffee table. Something fell from the back cover, a folded sheet of paper I hadn't noticed before. I opened it. And when I saw what it said, my knees nearly gave out. Because it wasn't notes. It was Cyrus's handwriting. And it was a confession. The paper shook in my hands before I even unfolded it all the way. I could feel Cyrus in the handwriting. The way he curled his letters. The way he pressed too hard on certain strokes, leaving dents in the paper. My throat tightened before I even read the first line. Marian stood beside me, her hand on my shoulder. "Take your time," she whispered. But time felt dangerous now. Every second mattered. I opened the page fully. At the top, written shaky but clear, were 6 words that hit me like a blow. I am not safe with her. My breath caught. The room seemed to tilt. I read on. Althea, if you found this, then I did not have the courage to tell you in person. I have been trying to protect you, but I made things worse. I did something without thinking, and now I cannot take it back. My fingers tightened around the paper. Marian leaned in closer. Keep reading, she urged softly. I swallowed hard and moved to the next paragraph. Months ago, when I first met Evelyn, she helped me find my way back to the facility after I got lost. She was kind, patient. She said she understood what confusion felt like. She made me feel less ashamed. I felt a stab of pain in my chest. He went on. I started talking to her about my memory problems, about my fears, about how ashamed I felt that I was losing track of simple things. She told me she used to help care for a family member with the same condition. She said she knew how painful it was. Marian muttered under her breath. Manipulation. I kept reading. The first mistake I made was trusting her with too much. The second mistake I made was telling her something I never should have shared. A cold shiver ran through me. Marian stiffened. What did he tell her? I moved my eyes to the next line. I told her about our savings account. My stomach dropped. No. No, no, no. The letter continued. I did not mean to. I did not realize how dangerous it was. But I told her everything. How much was in it, where the documents were kept, even the security question. She said she wanted to help me organize things before I forgot them. My knees buckled slightly. Marian grabbed my arm to steady me. Althea, she said, her voice tight, keep reading. I forced myself forward. At first, I thought she was just helping. But then I noticed things. The account balance looked lower than before. Small transactions I did not remember making. When I asked Evelyn about it, she told me I must have forgotten. She said we would check together the next day. My hands trembled. She never checked. More money disappeared. And I couldn't remember when it happened. Or if it was me. Or if it was her. My voice cracked. Oh, Cyrus. The next lines broke me. I tried to tell you many times, but every time I planned to talk, Evelyn found a way to stop me. She said it would upset you. She said you would blame yourself. She said she would fix everything quietly. Quietly. The same word she used when warning me on the porch. Cyrus wrote. I am writing this in secret because yesterday I found a document that scared me. It had your forged signature on it. I know it was not you. I know your handwriting like I know the sound of your laugh. Someone is trying to take the house. Someone is trying to take our life. And I helped them by talking too much. Tears blurred the page. Marian sniffed hard, fighting her own tears. I kept reading through the blur. Althea, I am so ashamed. I did not want to tell you because I know how much that house means to you. To us. I was trying to protect you, but I only made it easier for them to hurt you. Then the next paragraph was almost unreadable. Shaky, rushed, panicked. I think Evelyn is watching me more closely now. I see her standing in the hallway when I wake up. Sometimes I think she reads my notebook. I try to hide it, but my memory slips. I forget where I put it. My hands tightened. Then came the last paragraph. The one that made my entire world stop. Althea, if she gets full control of my records, she can declare me incompetent. And if she does that, she can also declare that you are unfit to make decisions for me because you are emotionally stressed. She told me once, quietly, that she knows how to move a spouse out of the way, if necessary. My stomach turned violently. Move a spouse out of the way. Those exact words Evelyn had hinted at. Those exact words in Cyrus's trembling handwriting. He knew. He knew what she wanted. The letter ended with a line that shattered me. I need you to fight for both of us, Althea. I am scared. I am sorry. I love you. Please save me before she finishes what she started. I pressed the page against my chest and sobbed. Marian wrapped her arms around me and whispered, "We're gonna save him. I swear we will." But before my tears could dry, Marian's phone buzzed again on the table. She wiped her hands and picked it up. Her face paled. "Marian." I whispered. She swallowed. Her voice trembled. "This message is from the same church nurse. She says they're moving Cyrus right now. Staff members are clearing the hallway. Something is happening. You need to come fast. But be careful. Evelyn is here too." My heart thudded painfully. Evelyn was there. Moving him. Controlling him. Getting closer to full authority. I grabbed my purse. Cyrus's notebook. The forged documents. The letter. I stood, shaking but determined. Marian reached for her keys. "We're going now," she said. Before we could leave, another message came through. A short one. And when Marian read it, she froze. "What is it?" I asked, fear crawling up my spine. She turned the phone to me. The message said, "Do not go through the front door of Willow Grove. Use the East Service entrance. Someone is watching for you." My breath hitched. Someone was waiting for me. Watching for me. Ready to stop me. Marian grabbed my arm. "Let's move," she said. "And stay close." We rushed out the door, heading toward the place where everything would come to a breaking point. The drive to Willow Grove felt longer than any road I had ever traveled, even though it was only 15 minutes. Marian's hands gripped the steering wheel so tight her knuckles turned bone white. I sat beside her, clutching Cyrus's notebook and the forged papers like they were my last pieces of truth in a world built on lies. The sky was gray, heavy, thick with clouds that looked ready to burst. Fitting. Storms were coming from every direction. As we approached the facility, Marian slowed the car and turned into a side street, just like the church nurse had warned. "Remember," she said, "we go through the East Service entrance. The front is a trap." I nodded, my heart pounding so hard my chest ached. When the building came into view, I saw it immediately. At the front entrance, standing tall and stiff like a security guard, was the same man who had come to my house. His arms folded. His eyes scanning the parking lot. He looked like he was waiting for someone. Waiting for me. Marian whispered, "That's him, isn't it?" "Yes," I whispered back. We parked behind a set of dumpsters near the east wing. The place was quiet. Too quiet. Like the calm before a tornado touches down. Marian grabbed my hand. "Ready?" "No," I said honestly. "But let's go." We slipped out of the car and walked fast but low, staying close to the outer wall. Every sound made my breath catch. The crunch of gravel under our feet. The distant hum of the building's generator. A soft breeze shaking the branches above us. When we reached the service entrance, I pushed lightly on the door. It opened. Someone had intentionally left it unlocked. We stepped into a dim hallway that smelled like cleaning chemicals and old wood. The nurse who messaged Marian must have cleared the way. Every door along the corridor was closed. Marian motioned for me to follow. We walked deeper into the building. After a few minutes, a woman stepped out from behind a mop closet. I gasped. The church nurse. She was in uniform, blue scrubs, loose hair tucked behind her ears, eyes darting nervously. "Mrs. Booker," she whispered urgently. "We don't have much time." "Where is my husband?" I asked, my voice tight with fear. She pointed down the hall. "They moved him to room 117. They told the staff it was for observation. It wasn't. Evelyn is in there with him now. They are trying to get him to sign something. They're saying he's confused. They want to declare him incompetent today." My heart nearly stopped. Today. Right now. Before I could do anything. Marian stepped forward. "What about the director? Who's helping her?" The nurse swallowed. The supervisor. His name is Mr. Calvin. He has been signing off on every document she brings him. I think she's paying him. Or something else. But listen to me, if they get Cyrus's signature on that last form, she gets full medical authority. Full medical authority. That meant she could move him. Medicate him. Hide him. And no one, not even me, could stop her. I felt the room spin. I have to get to him, I said. Marian grabbed my wrist. Wait. If you rush in, they'll say you're upsetting him. They'll use that against you. The nurse nodded quickly. She's right. You need proof. Do you have anything? I held up the notebook, the letter, and the forged papers. The nurse's eyes widened. This is everything. Suddenly, footsteps echoed from around the corner. Heavy. Fast. Coming closer. The nurse's face drained of color. Hide, she whispered. She pushed open a supply room door and hurried us inside. We crouched behind a shelf of folded blankets just as two voices entered the hall. One was the supervisor. The other, Evelyn. Her tone was sharp. I told you she would show up. She's too stubborn to back down. The supervisor grunted. If she comes through the front door, we'll handle her. Just keep the husband talking. He's already confused enough. My blood boiled. Evelyn sighed dramatically. He keeps asking for her. It's pathetic. But once he signs this form, everything is mine to manage. The house, the medical decisions. All of it. Marian covered her mouth, shaking with anger. I clenched my fists until my nails dug into my palm. The supervisor added, she's had enough time to fight. We end this today. Their voices faded as they walked farther down the hall. The nurse turned to us as soon as it was safe. Go now. Room 117. But be careful. Evelyn won't let go easily. I stood, breath shaking. Marian squeezed my hand. For Cyrus, she said. For us, I whispered back. We moved quietly toward the door. Every step brought me closer to my husband, closer to the truth, closer to ending this nightmare. When we reached room 117, I stopped. My hand hovered over the handle. Inside, I heard voices. Evelyn's, smooth, sweet, poisonous. Cyrus's, weak, confused, trembling. Althea. Where's Althea? My heart shattered. I pushed the door open. Evelyn spun around, shock freezing her face. Cyrus looked at me, the real me, for the first time in what felt like forever. His eyes filled with tears. Althea, he whispered. You came. I ran to him and took his hand. I'm here. I'm right here. Evelyn stepped forward quickly, her mask cracking with panic. You can't be in here. This is a private. Marian barged in behind me, holding up the forged documents and Cyrus's notebook like a weapon. Private nothing, she snapped. We know everything. Evelyn blanched. The supervisor entered behind her, but froze when he saw the papers in Marian's hand. Marian spoke loud, controlled, powerful. We have evidence of forged signatures. Manipulation of a vulnerable adult. Unauthorized access to medical files. Exploitation with intent to steal property. And we have witnesses. I turned to Cyrus and gently placed the notebook in his lap. Evelyn lunged forward. Don't give him that. But the nurse appeared behind her, blocking her path. No, Evelyn, she said firmly. It's over. Evelyn's face twisted, anger, fear, and desperation all fighting at once. You don't understand, she hissed. He needs me. She can't take care of him. She's old. She's emotional. She's fragile. I stepped forward. Fragile? No. My voice shook, but with power. I am his wife. His partner. His family. And you. You are a thief who preys on fear. Evelyn flinched. Marian added, And by the time the police see these documents, you won't step foot in another facility again. The supervisor tried to slip back out the door, but 2 security guards arrived, called by the nurse, blocking his path. It was over. Finally over. Evelyn's voice cracked. Cyrus, you said you trusted me. Cyrus lifted his head, gripping my hand tightly. I trusted the wrong person, he whispered. And I'm done. Security escorted Evelyn and the supervisor away while the nurse stayed with us. Cyrus leaned into me, exhausted but safe. When the chaos settled, Cyrus whispered, I'm sorry, Althea. I'm so sorry. I kissed his forehead. We're going to be all right. We're going home. And he cried into my shoulder, soft, broken sobs that told me everything I needed to know. He knew me. He loved me. And he had fought as best he could. Hours later, after statements were taken and evidence handed over, Marion drove us home. For the first time in months, Cyrus sat beside me in the back seat, his head resting on my shoulder. When we arrived, I held his hand at our front door and whispered, This house is ours. Our life is ours. And no one will ever take it from us again. He nodded weakly. The next morning, we sat together on the porch, tired, shaken, but safe. Marion joined us with hot tea in hand. This is not the end, she said. But it is a good start. And she was right. There were lawyers to call, reports to file, healing to do. But we had truth. We had each other. And we had a second chance to rebuild. Before the sun fully rose, I turned to the viewers of this story. The people listening, watching, supporting. Friends, thank you for staying with me through this journey. If you want more powerful stories like this one, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications, and tell me in the comments where in the country you are watching from. Your support helps these stories reach people who need them. Because somewhere out there, someone else might be going through the same thing. Someone who needs to know they're not alone. And that they, too, can fight back.